July 2010, and I'm about to interview Sylvia who as a young lady was a guest or prisoner of the Japanese on the island of Java during the period 1942 to 45. Now we'll just hear that in Sylvia's own words. Sylvia, can I say how much I appreciate you agreeing to do this interview today? And maybe you could start by telling us what your name was when you were born.
My name was Sylvia Yvonne Frossink.
Yes.
Vrossink.
And your married name is?
Vandenberg.
Thank you. Now, when were you born?
In 1932, 22nd of November.
Right, and just where was that?
In Cibadak, West Java.
In West Java, thank you. Now, your parents, what were their nationalities?
They were Eurasian, what they call Eurasian. My father's father was a Dutchman, and his mother was half Chinese, half Indonesian.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what were they doing on Java at the time, or in the Netherlands, East Indies?
Well, Dad's father was in the army.
Yes.
He was sent out from Holland, and he fell in love with the place, the country, and he promised. He said, "I'll be back." So he went back to Jakarta, to Cibadak, but he was not allowed to own property because he was not married to someone. So then he married my father's mother, and she was half Chinese and half Indonesian.
Yes, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah.
And do you know the circumstances under which she was in Java?
Who? My grandmother?
Yes, yes.
What do you mean?
Had her family migrated there, or had they gone there as workers, or
No,
do you know any background
I'm
to
not
it?
sure about that.
Okay.
Well, they had 10 children.
Yes, yeah. Now did you say your father was in the army?
Yes.
Now what rank was he?
A sergeant.
A sergeant. And where was he posted? Where was his barracks?
Oh, first in Bogor, where we were, was a different camp, and then he was brought to Bandung, and then from there to Japan.
Oh, once he'd become a prisoner.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now, do you remember 1941 when you were? What age were you in 1940? You were 9.
Yeah.
Were you aware that there were problems in the world and the Japanese were active?
Yes. My father built a special little house in the rubber plantation for us, because he said if the war comes, you have to go there and stay there.
Yes. You couldn't have stayed there for very long without food and things like that, though, could you?
No. Yeah, it only took a few days.
Yes.
And then they told us that the bridges will be blown up, so we better go back to where my grandfather was living.
Yes.
In Cibadak.
Now, if you go forward to 1942, January 1942, and you're in Bandung at that stage, were you?
Oh, in the camp, you mean? Yeah.
No, you're not in the camp yet.
Not yet, no.
You haven't been captured?
Was straight from Cibadak.
Yes. Were you aware of any British or Australian soldiers being in the area?
No. They told us the Red Cross was looking after us. So
yes.
We were picked up in trucks and taken to, I think it was the place from the nuns,
Yes. Yeah. Now, when were you aware that the Japanese were actually on Java Island
Yeah, the time that we had to go to my grandfather in Chibara.
Yes.
It's a few kilometers. Yeah, we were living more or less in the country.
Yes, yeah. When do you remember the first time you saw a Japanese person? Soldier, maybe.
Yes, in Bandung, in a camp.
Mm.
They put a high fence around, say, for instance, five or six streets, and it was about 6 meters high of bamboo, and we were not allowed to go out.
Mm-hmm. Now, can I just check you on the height? 6 metres is very high, it's 20 feet.
Mm.
It was really a huge fence, was it?
Yeah, all around bamboo.
Yes, yeah.
But we were hungry, and so we made holes in the bamboo fence and talked to the outside people, and we were giving them clothes, and they were giving us food.
And so they were the Javanese people that were outside,
Japanese,
and they took all of you into the compound, shall I call it?
Yeah, but the Jap that did it.
Yes, the Japanese took you into there. Now, what were the conditions like there? Were you living in huts?
No, we were living in houses, but my mum and her sister were there, and she had one daughter, my auntie, and 4 of us plus mum, and we were in a little room about 4 by 5.
4 by 5 metres or something like that. Yes.
Yeah, with all of us.
Yes.
So we had 2 beds for the mothers, and the children were sleeping under the beds, and
yes,
good.
Yes. And when you were moved in there, were you able to take any of your clothing?
Not much. Only a few bags or so, and I had a belt, a man's belt, and I put all the saucepans on it,
Yes.
for the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were like a pack horse. Yeah.
They could take what we could carry.
Okay, so you're living in there. Where did you cook?
Cooking was allowed for some time, just outside in little ovens.
Yes.
From Indonesia.
Yes.
Yeah, but that didn't last long.
No.
Then we were not allowed to cook, and we got everything from the big kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and what about if you needed to have a shower or bathe? Were there any facilities for you to?
They were normal houses.
Yes.
So
okay. And so the toilets were there as well, and that sort of thing. And they were all, you kept them as tidy as you could. Yeah.
So in one house, sometimes we finished up with 50 people.
Were the Japs inside the compound very much? Or?
No, but every morning at 7 o'clock we had to go to the oval and stand in rows.
Yes.
And they were counting us.
Yes. They would come in and check. Yes. And what did you do during the day? Did the mothers try and teach? Have classes or anything like that?
That was not allowed. The schooling was not allowed.
Yes.
We did it very, quietly.
Yes.
And then they gave us. We had to catch about 10 flies each and put them in a matchbox.
Yes.
And give it to them so that they can see that we were catching the flies.
Yes. Yeah.
And there were a lot of bad flies and so.
Yes. Yeah. No, I understand. Now, in your family, how many children were there?
There was myself, Ida, my sister, Walter, my brother, and Robert.
And how old? What were the ages?
Yeah, so I was it 9?
Yes.
9, 7, 5, and Robbie was 2.
So you were all kept together
Yes.
the whole time that you were
Yes.
incarcerated?
And my mum's sister had 1 daughter.
Yes, yeah. Were you aware that if there were any older boys in the camp, that,
Oh yes.
that if they were, when they became 12, they were moved out of the
Right.
female camp?
I think it was 10 or 11.
It may, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when they reached a certain age,
Yeah.
they were just shifted. Must have been difficult for them.
Yeah.
Now, did the Japs provide you with food? Or?
Well, the kitchen, in the morning we could go to the kitchen and get about 2 slices of bread. And not much. There was no milk. There was milk only for the youngest ones. And then all of a sudden we had shortage of vitamins. So we had all sores on the hair, on the back of it. It was shortage. And then we were given the cassava, you know what the cassava
Yes.
bottle, cooked.
Yes.
And prepared anyhow, and that helped.
Yes.
Helped us in that, yeah. And my younger brother was anemic, mom too, and myself too. But he was very, very bad, so he went to hospital.
Now that you've mentioned the hospital, who were
the hospital was outside the camp.
Oh right,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But in Bandung itself, yes. How big was Bandung? Was it a big? Was it a city or was it a
city?
And it had the hospitals and schools and all that sort of thing there.
Yeah.
Now I've asked you about food. How about your clothing?
Food. Yeah, and for the evening meal, we got some soup. So every time we have to go to the kitchen to pick it up.
Yes.
You know, with soup and Oh yeah, 2 slices of bread per person. No butter. We were using candles to smear it on the bread.
Oh really?
Instead of butter.
Yes, yeah. I don't know that I would like that.
Yeah, my younger brother was so bad, so they put him in hospital.
Yes.
And my mum was visiting him almost every day, and certain things it was forbidden, you know, she couldn't go, but she still went at night, you know, with help from outside. And she thought that he died because he was laying there and there was a cloth over his head. And it was, so, but it was not, he had lice, and they killed the lice with that, but he wasn't dead. The doctor said, do you want to keep him for his last days, you know, at home? And we said yes. And so Mom had a very good medicine actually. It was the soup made from a chicken, you know,
like a broth?
Juices, from the chicken. And he was given that. So he went well.
He recovered.
He recovered.
Yes.
He was very bad. You know.
Now, when your mother was visiting him in the hospital, which you said, did she get through the fence to get to the hospital?
And with help.
With help.
Yeah, outside.
How do you think that the Japs didn't see her and stop her?
No. And the Indonesian people were very poor, so Mom gave them something, you know, cloth or a dress or something.
Yes,
they were happy with it.
Now, obviously you're growing. Did you grow out of your clothing?
Yeah, yeah. My mom was very handy. She made a dress out of nothing. You
Yes.
know, we were given some material, and mom made some, and she embroidered and so on.
Did she? Oh, yeah, very clever.
And she was making a beautiful handkerchief, and they sold it to the ladies, the rich ladies in the camp.
Yes.
And or she was given the bread for us to eat.
Now you raised the point of the rich ladies. Within the camp, were there some people that were well off?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. They were living there.
Yes.
And my auntie was working for her.
Yes.
And earning a bit of money.
Yes. Yeah. It's a matter of survival, I'm sure.
Mm.
Now, was there a church within the camp?
No.
No church. So you never had any nuns in there with you?
Just a few, and they were working in the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah, but no church or anything.
No. And you mentioned, well, you didn't mention it, but did you have any doctors, or who provided the medical treatment within the camp when it was necessary?
There was a doctor.
There was a doctor.
Yeah.
Was it a lady doctor or a man doctor?
Yeah.
A lady doctor.
Yeah.
You don't remember her name?
No.
Yeah, I think I am aware of a lady doctor, but I think she was over on Sumatra and not on Java. Yes. How did you accept being in these conditions?
We had to live with it, and the mothers had to do a lot of terrible work, you know, from the toilet was overflowing.
Yes.
So they had to
Ladle it
dig
out.
it out, yeah.
Oh.
And, you know, that kind of work they had to do.
Do you remember any people dying in the camp?
No.
No. So if you go forward now, you're in these circumstances for all of 1942, 43, 44, and most of 1945. Do you remember when you suddenly heard or realised that the war was over?
Well, so the camp we started in was in Bandung, and then we were shifted to Buitenzorg, and that was Bogor. It was another camp, yeah. And before us, the men used the camp, and there were messages on the wall, you know, and some people had a message from the husband.
Yeah, sometimes they knew the person.
Yeah. And from there we went to Jakarta camp.
Yes.
And that's when the war stopped.
Is Makasura near Jakarta? Does that name mean anything? Makasura? No.
What is that? A name?
Yes, it's a location. Yeah. When you were moved from camp to camp, how did they shift you? Did you
trucks?
On trucks.
Trucks. Yeah.
Were you crammed onto them? Or was there room?
There was. Yeah, it was pretty full.
Yes.
Always covered, of course, and one of the soldiers in there. When we came in Bogor, there were a lot of fruit trees, pawpaw trees and so on. I said to my younger brother, you stay here under the tree and I'll climb and get some pawpaws. You know, it was quite high.
Yes.
And we did that, and it was beautiful, good meal. Well, we didn't have any butter for bread, so we used the candles.
Yes, yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So the war, when I was asking you when did you first realise that the war was over, and how did you find out about that?
Yeah, in Jakarta, all of a sudden a big truck came and there's a lot of meat, fruit, vegetables, and the Japs were very good to us. And said, you know, go ahead, this is all yours. So yeah, we knew. There were a few ladies there who had contact through radio and all that.
Yes.
And they knew it was coming to the end.
Yes, yes.
And from there, we had to go to Cibadak. So we had to go by train, but the Indonesians started then.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And, so as soon as we were in our house in Cibadak, we had those people coming over.
Yes.
And next to us was a young man living there. He was a friend of ours. And he had an Indonesian mother and a Dutch father. And he was altogether. But because he was a Christian, they murdered him. And they said, you know, you are a Christian and you don't like that. So he was sent on the street, and they were, with the knives, were just hacking him.
Yes.
And he was running past our house without any sound because he didn't want us to see what was happening. And he collapsed in the hospital opposite us. And then this chap who murdered him came to us, to my mother, and he said, see this? This is blood of your friend. He said, if you don't do what we want you to do, something happens to you too.
Yes.
And then my mom, she said in his language, shame on you. You used to know your father very good, and she spoke fluently. You know, and he was so embarrassed, and he said to his mates, he said, don't touch this family. You know, and that was it saved us.
You're fortunate, yes. Yeah. Now, where had your father been all the time that you were in?
Well, he went, I think, to Chihapit, the men camp, and some of them went to Burma.
Yes, to the railway.
Yeah. And then he was taken to Japan.
Yes. Now, do you know which camps he was in Japan by any chance?
No. Oh, in Hiroshima. Because when the bomb exploded over there, he said, I was in the toilet.
Yes.
It was lucky and something. But it was in Hiroshima.
Well, it's 65 years ago today that the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Now, when the war is over, when did you see your father again?
Yeah. So we came there, so after our friend Bram was murdered, and so we were very tired, very
sad, or?
sad and didn't know what to do.
Yes.
You know, so my mom and my auntie, we were going to Jakarta instead, and her husband was trying to get to the house, and he was chopped with from his face here, his ear off, and you know, but his fingers were all broken, but he wasn't killed, so he came out of it.
And these were the Javanese people that were doing these things to you, yes.
Oh, it was the second war actually. And then we had a little letter on toilet paper from my father that he was they're not allowed to say where they are exactly and so on. But we will see you soon, he said in Dutch, you know.
Yes.
And then we went to Jakarta. My father's eldest sister was living there in the house, and they took us in. And my father came there, and my little brother Robert was in the playing on the street in the front. And he said, Mister, I said, what is your name? And then my father said, what is your name? No, I'm Robert Frossing. Oh, I'm your father. He was just a little.
Yeah.
And that was the first meeting back.
Yeah. So now the family is now reunited. I suppose this was towards the end of 1945, was it? Before Christmas 1945?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Did you go to Holland or?
No.
No?
Well, the rest of his sisters and we all went to Holland because this house was pretty full. There were maybe 15 family members in the house. So one by one they went to Holland, and so we stayed there. And my father was still in the army, so he said we have to go to Balikpapan, and it was Borneo.
Yes.
So he took us there, and we lived in a big tent, as big maybe, bigger than this area. And yeah, with all of us for about 2 years. Yeah. And it was very close to the beach, so we had a ball, you know, and we went to school there and so. And so after 2.5 years, he was just discharged out of the army.
So you must have been about 15 or 16 years of age
15,
then?
yeah. And it was a beautiful time.
Yeah. And did you start, did you work?
Oh no.
No?
We went to school.
You went to school? Did you ever have a job?
Not there.
No.
No, when we came back to Jakarta.
Yes.
After that, I was doing shorthand and typing.
Yes.
And then I had a short job teaching shorthand because the teacher was going away.
Yes.
You know, and yeah. And that's actually where I met my husband because he was learning to type. And yeah, and my sister Ida and myself, we always had, oh, that is the cowboy. He was always dressed with a nice tie and so, very colorful. But he was very shy. He waited in the front until the bell went, and then he came in, you know, because the girls were there. And so we called him the cowboy. And his sister was getting shorthand typing too, and I was there when she was in the class, and she said to my husband later, guess what? You know, the girl you were eyeing, she's a teacher there now. So, and that's how it started.
Yes. And when did you? What were your circumstances that you came to live in Australia?
Oh, so we got married. In
What year was that?
1952. Yeah, so we met and within a year we got married. And he was a flight steward then with the Garuda, and we had our baby, but I lost him. And so after that we said he had a job at the hotel as a hotel manager, and I could help with the laundry ladies and all that. Then he met people from Australia, from the embassy, and so they were all in the hotel, and we got friendly with them, and they said, did you want to go to Australia? Oh yes, he said, but the Dutch embassy here was no help. He said, no, you're too dark, you wouldn't come in Australia because of white policy, you know.
Mm.
And he said, what? He said, really so, give me your passport. And he said, okay, stamp, go. And that's how we went to Australia.
And how did you actually come? Do you come by air or by boat?
By boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mad circle.
And which port did you arrive at?
In Fremantle.
In Fremantle.
Mm.
Mm. Now what year was that?
1953. 1953, and my husband's sister was living in Perth with her husband, and he was working with the embassy too, and so we could stay with them for some time. And then we found out, and he had a job straight away at the railways, because Winston was in the railways, and he got a job.
Yes, yeah.
So we didn't have much. We had about £100 in when we came, you know. So
yes.
we had to start from
scratch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did you live initially? After you left the family, where did you live?
You mean in Australia?
Yes.
Yeah, So her sister, Tino's sister, took us in, and then he got a job. Yeah, he got a job, but we didn't have enough money to buy a car, so he bought a motorbike to go to work. And then we had a house in Greenmount. You had to pay 7 guineas per week, it was.
Oh. That's pretty high rent.
Yeah, I know. And the basic wage was about 21 pounds or something.
Yes.
But it was good, and there we had our first girl. But we were very scared, of course, when I was pregnant again, you know, because he was RH positive and I was negative. So that's why we didn't know that. But yeah, everything was all right, and the doctor, the hospital rang up, and he said, Mrs. Vandenberg, you got a girl, and both are well. And he was so relieved, and he walked from Greenmount to Midland, just walking,
yes.
walking.
Yeah. So which hospital were you in?
What is it called?
Swan Districts Hospital?
No, in Subiaco.
Oh, St John of God.
No, special for the
Oh, King Edward.
King Edward.
Yeah, Helen's got it right.
Yeah, and it was so, when I had to go to hospital, my husband was only allowed to the lift, and he said, Mr. Vandenberg, you have to go now. Not like now.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah.
And how many children did you have?
Well, that was Helen.
Yes.
And then in 2 years after, Charmaine was born, and 3 years after, our son Martin was born. Yeah, and at the moment we've got 9 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. But my husband passed away last August the 19th.
Yes.
Last year.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, there's a photo of them there.
Of
Mom and
the family?
The family.
All right. And what's that photograph on your left shoulder there?
This one?
Yeah.
When I became 60,
yeah,
I had to stop work.
Yes.
Right? And so Mom and Dad and us, we're selling our houses, and we bought one together in
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It'll come in
Yeah.
a moment.
And I was looking after Mum.
Yes.
That because she had a few falls.
Yes.
And she was not allowed to live on her own anymore.
Yes.
And so I was a prime carer for her and for my father. And that was about 3-4 years. And then my father died over there. And mother passed away about 2-3 years after that. And also my brother had Parkinson.
Yes.
And I was looking after him as well.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just going to swing this back. So that's the two of you up there, isn't it?
Yeah, that was taken, when we came to the new place.
Yes.
Yeah. We were there.
Very nice.
I was just 60 and he was 61.
Yes, yeah. So I'm going to bring this back onto you now. And I'm going to pause it for a second. Now, Sylvia, I've just got to adjust the camera because you have got your wedding photograph for us there.
Yeah, we met in May. And we were engaged in early December, in November, and December 1952 we got married.
Yes, yeah.
In Jakarta.
Now you've got another family photograph there you were going to show me, which will be a bit difficult to do. But if you can point out who the people are.
Yeah. So this is in 1955 when we sponsored my mother, father and the rest of the family. So this is my husband, Martino. This is my mom and a younger brother who is here in Perth as well. This is another brother, my father. This is Ida, my sister, who came too. And Walter, my brother, and myself, and Helen.
Yep. Now I'm just going to come over. I think that's come up all right. I'll just come up a little bit closer. Yes, that's good now. Yes, now we're finished with that. Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to the interview, bearing in mind that this will become part of your family record?
Yes, if you don't mind, I'll hold this. My mother and father started something with chickens, and they had like a little farm, and they were very happy over there. And, Robert and my brother Wally was going to the north to work. So my husband and myself, we were living in Gumeling sometime, and my second daughter was born in 1958, and our son was born in 1960. But when we were living in Gumeling, my brother Robert, my sister Ida, and her baby and her husband came over to spend Easter with us. After 2 days they had to go back, and they had a terrible accident, and 4 of them lost their lives in one hit. And they were boys, they were sons of some farmers we knew, but we didn't do anything. I was expecting my son, and so we just let it go, and no one was punished or so for that. And it was a real bad hit for my mom, of course, losing her daughter, a little child, and my brother as well. And at that time I was expecting my youngest son. Mom and Dad, they've done all right. They always like to farm, and even later they were Chinese cooks. They had a restaurant in Midland, and yeah, so they had a really good time. But they passed away, and I was looking after them until the end, and yeah, I was very happy to do that. Yeah.
And when did you come to live in Merriwa?
Merriwa. Oh, when we bought this house, yeah. So my husband started to get, I don't know what it's multi-system atrophy, they call it. It's some sort of Parkinson, but it wasn't Parkinson. And so he was degenerating. And then I was a full carer for him. And this house was quite good because he can roll himself on the wheelchair, you know. And when we went out, we just went through the back door on the other side, go in the car, and that's it. So yeah, in 05 we bought the house, and well, it was 2 years. 2 years I looked after him here, and then he had falls, and I couldn't pick him up in the night. I had to call the neighbor, you know, to help me, and so then we decided that he had to go to nursing home, where he went, and yeah, so he just passed away last year on the 19th of August. Yeah, I'm still here. You don't know, I don't know how to feel.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll miss him.
Yes.
But don't know what to do or change, or for the time being I'll be staying here.
Yes.
And I've got a lot of help from my daughters. My son is in New South Wales, but he rings up.
Yeah. Well, that's very nice. Well, Sylvia, can I say how much I appreciate the opportunity of interviewing you, and I will burn a copy of this onto a disc and I'll bring it up for you, and maybe your family will be able to reproduce their own copies from it.
Thank you.
And once again, thank you very much for the privilege of interviewing.